I just want to let you know in here.
Hello, everyone. Wow, there's a good echo. We're going to get started here in a few minutes, so we thank you guys all for your patience. We're glad to see everyone, and we'll get started here probably in about 5 minutes. Hello, everyone. So we still have some people coming in, so if there's some spots beside you, try and shove in as much as you can. We do have some extra seats, but try and get to know your neighbor. All right. So if everyone wants to grab a seat and get ready, we're going to get this show on the road. Okay. All right, everyone. The time is here. So just to let everyone know, we've got a few people that are going to talk before Derek. And one of the people has become a good friend, and it's an honor for me to introduce Mr. Rob Anders, former Member of Parliament.
Hopefully I don't cause too much feedback here tonight. Well, my guess is the reason you're here is the same reason that I'm here, which is that you're frustrated, right? Let me talk about some of the things that frustrate me. We have pastors that are being jailed, fined, harassed. I know Art and David Pawlowski. I consider them friends of mine. And the idea that those guys were dragged into jail, okay, that they are being dragged before the courts continually, it's a political witch hunt, my friends. That we have pastors Tim Stevens in this province with $200,000 worth of fines weighing down upon him. Imagine how stifling that is for just about anybody. That we have Pastor Coates and the Grace Life Baptist Church that was barricaded, seized by the government for them to have freedom of worship and assembly. That we've recently had 50 churches burned, vandalized, and a lot of politicians, a lot of the mainstream media have been silent on this, right? And that's why I want to give a shout out to my friends in Rebel. There's some of the folks from Rebel News here tonight. To Adam Seuss and Sheila Gunn Reid and Ezra Levant and all the rest of the team for covering the stories that the other people are choosing to ignore. God bless you. My own congregation has been spied upon. We've had people sitting at the back while my priest gives a sermon looking to see if they can lay down some sort of violation. And you know, this all I said when I last met and introduced, you know, Derek and Airdrie. But it's got worse since then. We have a Member of Parliament, David Urdiga, who was denied the ability to run for the Conservative Party. He was pressured for 3 days to say that he had to resign because he dared question mandatory vaccinations. I voted for Derek Sloan in this last leadership race. He was my first choice. In the leadership race before that, my first choice was Pierre Lemieux, and he was also denied the ability to run as a conservative in this election. And then we also have a candidate who was going to run for us for the Yukon Party. I know these people because I helped develop the campaign plan that put the Yukon Party into power in the Yukon when I helped Brad Cathers structure that campaign strategy when he was a member of our national council. Okay, so all of these people are my friends, and it pains me when I see them treated the way they are. Pains us all, you bet it does. You know, this morning, I watched a video sent to me by a friend of mine about what was going on in France. People were being denied the ability to buy groceries because they didn't have a vaccine passport. Contemplate that. Contemplate that. Right? Now, I want to say, in terms of my own personal history, I got COVID. Okay? I had a fever that lasted for a couple days. I had a dehydration headache that lasted for 8 days. I normally don't take anything, but at the 6th day, just to prevent myself from going stir crazy, I started doing acetaminophen to kind of ease some of the pain. I then had it moved to my lungs. At one point, it was so difficult for me climbing the stairs that I had to stop and catch my breath just climbing the stairs. Okay, I was in bed for 3 weeks because of it. But that all being said, I know that myself and Eric Lowther, who's going to be speaking here as well, we are both subscribers to, thank God that we had doctors who were able to get us ivermectin, that were willing to prescribe us ivermectin. Okay? The protocols in this province are such that if a doctor prescribes ivermectin, they can have their license pulled. Pharmacists were threatening doctors with pulling their license and the ability to practice medicine. That is wrong, right? Some of this stuff I'm talking about, and I'll go on a little bit, this is the stuff of Stalin and the KGB and the Soviet Union, right? Let me talk about another big issue. So the first one was mandates, okay? The second one is firearms rights, all right? Justin Trudeau wants to disallow, wants to ban, etc., outlaw 1,500 varieties of firearms, right? I don't want to be dictated to from Ottawa with regard to that type of thing. All right, Jason Kenney has been dragging his feet on us choosing our own chief firearms officer. I would even prefer that that person is elected by firearms license holders in the province of Alberta rather than chosen by the Premier or the Prime Minister. We have threats with authorization to transport that'll make it difficult for people to take their guns either to ranges or even get them repaired. This is ridiculous. And we think of High River. Has anybody been held to account for all the doors that were kicked in, all the firearms that were seized, the list that they must have had in order to do that, even though that list was outlawed, right? These are egregious violations of our rights. I want to move on to the third issue, which is taxes, specifically carbon taxes, okay? These taxes are in the process of being tripled. Our pipelines are being blocked from Alberta being able to get it to some of the ports that we need to export this. We've had $500 billion added to our debt because of Trudeau's COVID scenario. And I don't care whether you call it a carbon tax or carbon pricing or a carbon levy or whatever type of snaky word maze you want to use on this, you're hiking taxes. And no conservative should be in favor of increasing taxes. Now, Derek Sloan, the man I voted for in this last Conservative leadership race, he's a leader. He's braved 7 fines going to religious services, going to rallies across this country, standing up for freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, when a lot of other politicians cowered. They didn't come out, they didn't speak, they didn't say anything. They were mum, silent. Okay, he's a firearms owner. He's opposed the Paris Agreement. He's called out climate alarmism, the thing that is strangling the lifeblood of the province of Alberta. Okay, he's had the courage to talk about Wuhan, China being the source of this COVID. When other people were calling him names and saying, no, 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 that's not true, and now as more and more is coming, that's true. Okay? He actually had gatherings of doctors to talk about what should be done in terms of the protocols, etc., and it was removed. Okay, all this censorship, etc. And so, my friends, for these various reasons, because we don't believe in mandates, okay, because we believe in firearms rights, and because we want to kill the carbon tax, for all these reasons, we're here tonight. This, my friends, this is Alberta! My friend Derek Lowther, Member of Parliament for Calgary Centre. Sir.
Good job, Rob. Way to go, Rob. You know, I've known Rob for 20 plus years, and he talked just like that 20 years ago. So he's never deviated from commitment to conservative themes. And I'm especially glad to see all of you, and especially glad to see you made it down the Cochrane Hill. There may be half of the group still up there. I don't know. That hill's a tough one. Yeah, my name's Derek Lowther. I live in this riding, and thank you, and I did serve in Ottawa, and I represented Calgary Centre at that time, and I was part of the official opposition of Reform Party, and many of you probably helped during those years, and I've always voted Conservative, and I've always stayed tuned in with what was going on, and I've been a little bit frustrated here in our own riding that our current Member of Parliament has never had a nomination race in about 14 years and 4 elections. But anyway, I was watching the leadership race, like many of you probably were, and I didn't know Derek Sloan from anybody, and yet here is a fella standing up, and every time he spoke, I thought, you know, that's resonating with me. I like what he has to say. He said, you know, this lockdown's gone too far. We don't need to go this far. He said, you know, maybe Theresa Tam isn't doing what Canada needs, she's doing what WHO needs, and maybe she should go, right? And and I liked it when he said, you know, when the oil patch in Alberta is booming, it's not bad for Canada, it's good for Canada, so why are we putting roadblocks? We should make it easier. He said, let's get out of the Paris Accord and these global agreements that we sign on to. You know, we don't need that. We don't need that. And, you know, in all of his talks, in all the things he spoke to, he kept to one theme. It's about Canada first. Let's do what's good for Canada. And in addition to that, every time he spoke, I picked up he'd use the word vision. And, you know, we need a positive vision for our country, and I think he's got it in his heart and in his head, and why he's standing and doing what he's doing. And why is vision so important? Well, our founding people who started this nation knew it was. If you went to Parliament today, if you went to Parliament and you went up the Peace Tower, what's the big tower in the middle of the Parliament buildings, whether you know it or not, or whether you like it or not, there's verses, scripture verses, embedded all through the Parliament. They are. It's part of our heritage, part of where we came from, right? So on the Peace Tower, there is verses on each side of the Peace Tower, and on the west side, the side that's pointing to us right now, there's a verse from Proverbs, and it says, Without a vision, the people perish. The people perish. And, you know, Derek Sloan has given us a vision of a Canada that can work, a Canada that's founded on values and principles that are going to make the nation stronger, not weaker, make our nation number one on the planet. We've got all the potential to do it. He believes it, and he's made me believe it. And that's why I've been supporting him. And I hope every one of you do tonight as well. Now, the next speaker I want to introduce is somebody who I've had a long time friendship with. This gentleman served in Parliament, your Parliament, for 15 years, and as far as I was concerned, he is a hero there. He was the chair of the Justice Committee. He's got a heart as big as a house, and he's just as tough as a bear, but he's a big teddy bear when you get to know him. Would you please welcome my good friend and former MP, Art Hanger. Art Hanger.
Good evening. A few of us were reminiscing here just before the event started, or the speakers came up. We were talking about the good old reform days. And they were good. That was how politics is really done. And as we organized and we ran in that first campaign back in 1993, what happened? The Progressive Conservative Party was given a gut punch, and they went from a majority to 2 seats in the House. 2. They couldn't believe their fortune. They were very, very upset about it, let's put it that way. But that is what needs to happen again today. I think it's the Conservatives that have lost their way. We know what Trudeau's all about. We know what the NDP is all about. But it's the Conservatives that need another gut punch. They have lost their way, and they need to be replaced. The unfortunate part is that there's a lot of collusion going on in the East amongst all these parties. It happened back in 1993. They would all get together and they would try to trap, trick, cause all kinds of grief for the reformers. And they're doing it again. They're doing it to Derek. They're dragging their feet on this registration. And he will tell you more about that. But it is tragic to think that we have a bureaucracy and a media that have been bought out so much so that we will never know the truth about so much of it. So here we are today. You have heard it said, victory is sweet. But I tell you, unless you have endured a long and difficult struggle, facing overwhelming odds, trusting in God's providence for strength, after expending all of your own assets and energy, unless you have trod this path, you really know very little about the sweetness of victory. True victory leaves a lasting, deep satisfaction that rests quietly in your soul, content with the knowledge that you have persevered to the end, having done all. And that is where we're at. You're going to have to make every step count. You're not going to allow your opponent to distract you, and they will. and you have to keep your eyes on the goal. This man, Sloan, he understands this path. He has felt the sting of his colleagues' indifference when the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada ostracized him, then unceremoniously booted him from the National Caucus, and then without due process, kicked him out of the party. Shame on them. So why did they do that? Why? Was it because his values frightened them? Was it the truth that they feared? Did he not conform to their unspoken agenda? What? I think it was all of them, all of the above. So what is there left to say? You folks insist on coming out to hear what this man Sloan has to say. You're not going away. Is it that you want to walk, pardon me, is it that you want to walk this political path with him? Is it that you share his values and want to take up some of the burden he carries? Is it that you clearly see a threat against your freedom and seek his leadership? Is this what your desire is? Then know this. Know this. Not only will you share the load, but you will commit to reaching out to your friends, your neighbors, and others in the community and bring them into the fight. There is a lot at stake here. Do not think that this campaign will be easy. It will not be easy. Campaigns like this never are easy. Always remember, it's not just about you or your future, but it is also about your children's future and your grandchildren's future and the future of your community. Trudeau's Great Reset is about to take away that future. And there's no turning back. Yes, this is only one constituency. It's only one. But victory begins by taking that first step. So I ask you, Derek Sloan asked you to come and plant that flag of yours tonight, now. The clock is ticking. The incumbent MP out here, Blake Richards, has to go. He has done enough damage. That's damage in itself. Nothing is damage. Folks, I would like you to welcome Mr. Derek Sloan, MP, to this stage. Derek, where are you?
Hello, Cochrane. How are you doing? I don't think the stage is big enough. I like to move around up here, so forgive me if I fall off, okay? Listen, I believe that Canadians are ready for change. And myself and my team have traveled to over 15 Alberta towns and cities in the last couple of weeks. And we're seeing crowds just like this in almost every single one of them. So we are starting a movement that's going to spread across the country, but for the next 33 and a half days, we're going to take a brief hiatus right here in Banff Airdrie. I was elected Conservative Member of Parliament in 2019. I ran for the leadership of the Conservative Party with the slogan, Conservative without apology. I'm sick of Conservatives apologizing for their values. It's okay if you apologize when you make a mistake, but you should never apologize for your core values that you stand for. This leadership race had, as far as we can tell, the highest entry requirements of any leadership race in the entire world. In terms of the money that was required to get in terms of the time frame, it would have been cheaper to run for President of the United States than to run for leader of the Conservative Party. 9 people entered that race, 4 of them qualified, of which I was one, and our team did very well. And we enjoyed traveling to here and to many other provinces in Canada. We loved it. That's right, thank you so much. And our message of positive, proactive, never backing down, whether it's controversial or not controversial, struck a tone with Canadians who are sick of politically correct leadership. They're sick of politicians telling them nothing when they speak. And after that, the leadership race, things were not going well in Ottawa. And after 4 or 5 months of attempting to play as a team member in Ottawa, I was unceremoniously kicked out of the Conservative Party. It was ostensibly for a $131 donation. That had been made apparently by somebody who's racist. It didn't matter that we had received 13,000 separate donations, raised nearly $1.4 million, that the Conservative Party had accepted their cut of that $131, that they had processed it on their own website, that they had allowed this person to become a member, that this person had voted in the leadership race, that they had examined his license, that he donated under a name that was not known well. None of that mattered, and I was kicked out. But it was not about a donation. It was about a leader who didn't want anybody vying for attention on his platform. That's right. It was about a leader that didn't want anything stepping in his way of taking the Conservative Party from a Conservative Party to a Liberal-like party. And he's moved at lightning speed ever since. If they were actually concerned and they told us all to raise money, and I did, and they sent the letter saying, here, pulled my nomination against the will of my local members who nominated me in 2018 and voted for me again. I was the number one. 20. They took that money and they gave it to the next candidate that they put in my place. They have virtually assured that that riding will go to the Liberals. They put a brand new person in after ripping the person out against the wishes of the riding. And O'Toole has said that he wants to win. But he didn't stop there. He's done many other things. He just forced a good Alberta MP up in the north, David Gerdiga, to resign because he said that mandatory vaccines were a hallmark of tyranny. He's forcing a candidate in the Yukon to step down because he had some things to say about mandatory vaccinations as well. This is not the hallmark of a Conservative Party. In fact, it's clear that all the legacy parties are corrupt. There was no stand federally against the lockdowns that destroyed thousands of businesses across the country and right here in Alberta. There was no offering or talking about alternative treatments for COVID that are being used all over the world. There was no stand against mandatory quarantining. In hotels where your family doesn't know where you're going and you're being taken by people you don't know who they are. And now they want to bring mandatory vaccines for every man, woman, and soon child. Boo. Almost worse than this, the Liberals want to censor the internet so that anyone who doesn't agree with them will be silenced. The Liberals also want to push, well, and the Conservatives, frankly, shamefully, damaging climate policies that will shut Alberta down for good. I've never seen a Liberal government so cynical that they will turn on things that they've said mere months ago when the opportunity comes to gain a few votes. It was only a few months ago that Justin Trudeau said, oh, mandatory vaccines, no, that would be divisive and harmful. Vaccine passports would divide the country. But now that he thinks he can gain a few points in the polls, he's not afraid to say exactly the opposite of what he said only a few months ago. It's shameful. He's also willing to trample on just about every liberty we have, whether it's religious liberty, freedom of conscience, freedom to choose what medical treatments you want. Just this past week, the Liberals are making this election about abortion again, which they do it every time, and I tell the Conservatives, you have to stop running away. But they're doing it again, and now they're going so far to say that being pro-choice means that only women get choices, doctors don't. As if a doctor should have to perform an abortion or a euthanasia if it goes against their conscience. I don't think they're actually going to do that, but this is the lows that the Liberals will go to foment their following and to double down on toxic policies of division. This is the extreme to which Justin Trudeau is willing to go. And I just want to say today, mark my words, you will not get away with this, Justin Trudeau. You will not get away with this. Everything that he does provides us as a country. It is shameful. Every trick in his book is about pitting Easterners against Westerners, black people against white people, men against women, Indigenous against Europeans, and vaccinated against unvaccinated. This division needs to stop. We will overcome him, and we will never forget what he has done to this country. But in all of this, where were the Conservatives? Where was Aaron O'Toole? Albertans trusted you to stand up for them. They trusted you to stand up to Justin Trudeau when he was dividing and conquering here in the West. But instead, you stood silent when we had the greatest crisis in this country in peacetime. You stood by. You stared your MPs into silence. There's many of them that were questioning these lockdowns, many of them questioning many things. And yet, you forced them to be silent this whole time. It's shameful. And your MP in this riding, as whip, was calling MPs behind the scenes and telling them to be quiet and telling them to vote for Liberal legislation. It's shameful. The party and the leaders stood silent when tens of thousands of Canadians had their businesses closed, while eating disorders, anxiety disorders skyrocketed, suicides, domestic violence, overdoses. Nothing. They said nothing about alternative treatments for COVID, nothing about different ways of addressing the problem. They stood silent. The only thing they could say was buy more vaccines, vaccinate people faster. The silence was deafening, and it came at a point in our history where we needed someone to stand, and no one did. They said nothing when pastors were going to jail. They said nothing when Justin Trudeau would go to his Black Lives Matter rallies with his cabinet, and pastors were trying to open their churches and they were going to jail. They said nothing. They didn't say anything about the mandatory hotel quarantining until several women got assaulted. Do we have to be assaulted before the Conservatives will stand up for our rights in this country? It's shameful. It took them about 3 days to get a tepid response from Aaron O'Toole about mandatory vaccines. And apparently he doesn't believe in them. I don't trust him. He kicked David Yerdiga out of the party for being against him. He tried to shut down the guy in the Yukon for being against it. I don't trust him at all. What about the pledge he wrote with his own hand? He would never bring in a carbon tax. You remember that pledge? How long did that last? A few months? Not only this, but other MPs were bullied and shamed in silence behind the scenes. It's atrocious what we're seeing. He had his health critic write a lengthy paper about how certain drugs should be legalized for gay men without spending any time whatsoever to write a paper on some drugs that might be useful to fight COVID-19. He's mentioned a lot of Liberal catchphrases, but I've never heard him mention ivermectin or many other drugs that could be useful in this fight. The leader failed to stand up for Alberta's energy independence by being in favor of the Paris Agreement and by being in favor of carbon taxation and other climate alarmist methods. You got it. He also said that he could afford to lose some votes in Alberta. I think that wish may come true. He also said that he didn't want anybody that comes to my meetings to be in his party. Well, I have news for you, Mr. O'Toole. The people that are coming to my meetings are the base of your party, my friend. How many people here are conservative voters, former voters and donors and volunteers and things of this nature? Many, many, many people. The leader failed to stand up for conservative values, and he even voted against a bill by Kathy Wagenthal, someone in his own caucus, a private member's bill, and it was a bill that wanted to address sex-selective abortion. When an abortion happens only because the person doesn't want that particular gender of baby. It's something that most Canadians are actually against, about 80%, depending on what poll you're looking at. And typically, when a party brings forward a private member's bill, every member of the party votes for it. I can't remember a single private member's bill a Liberal brought forward that every Liberal didn't vote for. And yet, he voted against it. Boo. Your MP in this riding voted against that bill to ban sex-selective abortion. That's right. He had a conservative mandate in this riding where over 70% of the people in this riding voted for him. He had nothing to lose. The next person on the ballot, I don't know what they got, 12%, something way down there. He had nothing to lose. He had no reason to back down from representing his constituents. But instead, he cared more about currying the good graces of O'Toole than for standing up for his own constituents here in the riding. The Liberals are once again turning this election into abortion. It doesn't matter how many times O'Toole marches in parades or says he's pro-choice or, votes against his own members' bills. The Liberals always campaign on controversy. That's what they do. They campaign on division. That's why I've said that Conservatives must stand strong. We cannot avoid controversy. Therefore, we must not back down. We must have a measured approach that never backs down, because they want to use controversy to cow us into silence. That's what they do. And it's picked up on by others in the Liberal elite and these things, and they want us to be quiet. Absolutely. That is why I advocated for a policy of never apologizing and never backing down. It's the way to do it, and it's the only thing that works. It's the only thing that works. And, I am disappointed by many Conservative MPs, but some of them deserve more opprobrium than others. Some of them deserve a little more ire from their constituents than others. And one of them is the MP in this riding, Blake Richards. He's the whip of Aaron O'Toole, and he's carrying O'Toole's water out here. He's doing O'Toole's dirty work out here. When Conservative MPs don't want to vote for some of this Liberal legislation, he's calling them behind the scenes saying, well, come on, can you just support it, or at the least, can you just abstain? I can't tell you how many times I got a call from this guy, wanting me to back down and back off. That's his job. And he calls himself an Albertan. He's been out here representing this riding for 14 years, never been challenged. You don't get challenged if you do the party's dirty work. They'll protect you. And a lot of MPs out here take their position for granted. They take their support for granted because they say, oh, well, what are they going to do? Vote Liberal? I'm going to win anyways, so I'll just do whatever I want. No more. No more. It's time, and I'd like to say right now, I want to put cowardly MPs on notice. When you take your constituents for granted, when you care more about Ottawa than you do your own constituents, we're going to come for you. This will be a shot across the bow to the Conservatives, but many other people in this country. We will target those cowardly MPs. We will win this riding, and we will extend this movement across the whole country. So if you haven't gathered it already, I would like to tell you officially that I have decided to run in this riding, in this election. I am here. I am here. And I'm not going anywhere. And listen, we've done our homework. We have excellent support here. And I'm telling you right now, there is no chance that a Liberal or an NDP is going to win this riding. This is a two-horse race. It's going to be Blake or it's going to be me. I'm telling you that right now. That's right, that's right. Now listen, now I see we got a hand in the audience, so you know what, ma'am, just wait till we're done. You can come up and you can ask me personally, okay? But listen, I'll tell you this. If you like the Maverick or PPC, God bless you and God bless both of those parties, okay? But support them in a different riding, okay? Because this is going to be a two-horse race. We've done our homework, okay? No offense, okay? God bless both of those parties. But just let us have this slice of the pie, because I'm telling you, we've done our homework. It's going to be Blake or me. We've done our homework. We know how this is shaping up, okay? But don't worry, the NDP and Liberals cannot win, okay? We've looked at it. There's no way, okay? There's no way. There's no chance. So listen, I want to thank you guys so much. I'm just floored by the freedom-loving spirit in Alberta and other places, but I've been here for 3 weeks and it's amazing. And I'm just honestly humbled every single time I get in a room in front of you. So thank you so much for being who you are. It's amazing. Thank you. So I just want to tell you here, and thank you so much for being here, but I'm going to tell our audience that's watching across Alberta and across the country, I want every single freedom-loving Albertan to come to this riding and flood it with our message, because we are going to take this riding. So sign up on my website. If you're watching this online right now, go to dereksloan.ca, sign up to volunteer. Let's bring you down here. The people in this riding aren't going to know what hit them. So listen, we're getting a lot of support here in a lot of different parts of Alberta, and a lot of people have said, Derek, you should run to be Premier of Alberta. Now, I'm honored by your request and your enthusiasm, but I will be a little bit busy in the next election running to be Prime Minister of this country. listen, in the meantime, this is going to be a barometer of the status of freedom in this country. People from coast to coast are going to be watching the outcome in this riding. They're going to say, can an independent individual take on the establishment? Can he succeed? Okay. But I'm going to need each and every one of you to be with me. Are you with me? Are you with me here? I'll need you all. Listen, we cannot let democracy die in darkness. The mainstream party structures have destroyed democracy. David Yerdiga can't even put out a letter saying that mandatory vaccines are wrong without getting kicked out of the party. This is awful. This is the type of world that we live in, okay? We cannot let this system take over our country. Let it be known. Let it be known that individual people matter. Let it be known that individuals can vote for a person and not just a color. Let it be known that people can vote for a person with integrity and not just talking points on TV. So join with me in these next 34 days as we take this riding back. It will be a litmus test of what is to come next. But after that, it's all the way to Ottawa. Thank you so much. God bless you and God bless Alberta. Thank you.
Hey everybody, that's awesome. Let's give another big round of applause to Derek Sloan running here, right here in Banff. All right, I'm going to give Derek the microphone here in one more second. He's going to close this thing up, but it's time for me to, yeah, nobody wants to listen to me, but it's time for me to do my work. So at the back of the room, you're going to see a bunch of tables set up. And those tables are there so that we can get your support. As Derek said, it's time to send a message, and we need all of your help, everybody here. So Derek's campaign is officially launching. The paperwork needs to get submitted tomorrow. I need at least 100 individuals that live in Banff-Airdrie, and hopefully they're here, to sign on Derek's nomination paperwork. There's a table there. I need you guys all to go over to that table, line up, sign up, and let's get this started tomorrow. All right? Second of all, as you know, campaigns, they take volunteers and they take money. We have a table open for donations. All right? So there's a table open for donations. Hey guys, sorry. So there's donation forms if you're interested in donating. As I said, the campaign, you know, is going to cost money, and we're starting at zero. So we start at zero, and we need all of your help. Volunteer forms are out there. Sign forms are out there. If you want to put a lawn sign up, there's forms for that too. We just ask all of you to get involved. Talk to your family, your friends, your kids. We want you all, and we've got a space for you all. All right, so come help us take this riding back. If you need anything else, go to www.dereksloan.ca, and I'm going to give it to Derek now to finish up. Thank you guys. I'll be at the back. Come talk to me.
Always take time for questions. All right, everyone, thank you so much. And so Dan is just saying we need 125 signatures at the back there, so if we can do that. I'm going to close the meeting quickly. I see a question. Yes, what's your... I'm going to answer everyone's questions after we want to close, but what is it, ma'am? Yes.
From Ontario.
Yes.
Why have you picked this riding? And thank you, but can you just tell us why?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so the question here is why have we picked this riding? Now, we're going to have some exciting announcements to make in the next couple of days about other people that we're running in some other areas, okay? But this announcement tonight is about this riding. You all know that many of you know that I've started a federal political party, okay? It has not yet been approved, okay? But we are going to be running people in this election. Some, not many, but some, okay? So we wanted to make sure that we had a toehold in the West and also in the East. Also, because of the cowardice of the Conservatives, as I told you before, we want to make sure that we're targeting people that deserve to be targeted, not people who are doing their job. As the whip of the party, he's been carrying O'Toole's water out here in Alberta, and he has been telling all the MPs to stand down on important legislation. So that is why I'd be happy to talk to you more about this afterwards if you'd like to know. But that's why we've chose this riding. We will be running people in other areas as well, and those announcements will come out soon. But we wanted to make sure we had representation here in the West, and in our touring around Alberta, people were very excited to hear about my movement, and they wanted to see that. So that's what we're doing. We're not leaving Ontario alone either, don't worry about that. But we're making announcements kind of, you know, one at a time, okay? So thank you for that. I'm not going to take any more questions, but you feel free to come up. You can ask me as many questions as you want, okay? We have a schedule to keep. But I will say, as I've been accustomed to do, and as I've done in every single one of my meetings here in Alberta, as has been done for the last 100 years at every town council meeting and is done daily in Parliament, I'm going to close this meeting with a brief prayer. You may join me if you like. You don't have to, okay? Let's stand. Dear Lord, we thank you for this great country. We thank you for all the patriotic Canadians that are joining us here tonight and around the world on the World Wide Web and across Canada. We thank you so much for the blessings we have in this country. We pray that you would help us to get this country back, though it may cost us and though we may have to fight. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, thank you so much. So feel free to come up and talk to me, and make sure if you're from this riding and you would like me to run, you sign our paper at the back, okay?